You can't fully understand what's happening in Palestine and what we need to do about it without understanding these three concepts, and I'm going to explain them to you real quick. The first is colonialism. This one's pretty obvious if you've paid any attention to what's going on. It's land theft for resource extraction. Europeans, who are used to using colonialism to solve all their problems, collaborated with the Nazis to try to send all the Jews in Europe to Palestine instead of dealing with the actual anti-Semitism problem that they had and still have. The second thing is capitalism. Well, you probably heard about this one too. Britain and the US used the newly created settler colonial state of Israel to shore up their strategic interests in the region, which basically means having access to the resources that fed their addiction to power and money. Capitalism is a system where the land and the means of production are owned by a small handful of people instead of in the commons. It uses the threat of state violence via police and prisons and coercion via the ever-looming threat of homelessness to force people to work jobs that are bad for them and their communities and that help nobody except for the people at the top. The third one, you knew it was coming. Oh yes, white supremacy, the demon child of these other two systems. White supremacy at its heart is a system of dehumanization, because if brown and black people aren't really fully human, then whatever we do to them in the service of those other two things, well, you know, it doesn't really matter. There wasn't a critical mass of people in the Imperial Core protesting the expulsion of Palestinians back when the Nakba happened because, well, they were brown. What did it matter? Plus, capitalism keeps the working class of every location so ground down into poverty that they kind of are only just trying to survive themselves. And also it makes them racist against other people so that they're not building solidarity amongst each other to end all of these systems. But we're doing it now. You can see this playing out in the Imperial Court today with the fact that Israeli lives are considered to actually be worth something, and it doesn't matter how many Palestinians die as long as they get what they want, which is genocide. So, colonialism, capitalism, white supremacy. It's essential to understand these three systems so that we actually know the material conditions that we're up against and how to organize together to fight them. And yes, patriarchy and religious fanaticism do play a role here, but I only have so much time for that in one video. So if you forget about the capitalism piece, you'll think that just writing letters to politicians is going to work, when obviously doesn't. They don't give a shit because they don't see us in the working class as people. We are just rungs on a ladder that they climb over to get to the power that they're addicted to because they, weren't loved by their parents or whatever. I can talk about that later. The only thing they do respond to is the gears of capitalism not turning because we stop them. Let me know if you want me to talk more about that, because I have thoughts. Anyways, if you forget about the colonialism piece, you will forget that all of this is at its heart about land and people's relationship to the land. Europeans are not indigenous to Palestine. That's just not a thing. And if you forget about the white supremacy, you will drive yourself mad wondering why other people around you don't seem to be caring about Palestine. So what actually can work to stop this? Collective organizing, strikes, blockades, people using everything in their power in a diversity of tactics to say, no, we're not going to do this. There's an article in my bio with a step-by-step guide for exactly what you can do.